I met my dad in a different form.
One of a diagram for a good leader is someone who's high challenge and high support. So we want to support people really well and give them encouragement and love and what do you need, but we also want to challenge them. We don't want to just let them just sit, especially because our culture is speaking so many different opposing viewpoints and people don't know who to believe or what to believe. So there's just going to be, our kids are going to find fault with us. They just are. And that's the place where we give them grace and we give them mercy. Nothing mattered except what God thought about me. And God loves me and He's created me a certain way. And even if I don't have success in the eyes of the world, in His eyes, like I am extraordinary and I'm wonderful and I'm made specially.
Welcome to Untold, the series where we get past the titles and find the person underneath. My name is Nitin, and my guest today is my first friend in Oklahoma. He's really special to me. He's also an executive director at Anchor Ministries. He's a great husband, great father, and a great friend. Derek Schering, welcome to Untold. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Nitin. I'm glad to be here. This is exciting. I've enjoyed our friendship, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. So tell me about your childhood. How were you as a kid? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Michigan in the United States, and then my parents felt called to be missionaries to a country called Papua New Guinea, which is just above the island of Australia. And so I had several years there where I was growing up, and the people of Papua New Guinea are very dark-skinned, like just as dark as people are born. And I remember, and that's how I grew up. And so I thought, these are my people, these very dark-skinned people. And so I was maybe 7 years old when we came back to the United States. And I still remember being on a playground at an elementary school in Michigan, because we moved back to Michigan, and looking around, and it's all white kids, just me and a bunch of white kids. And I'm thinking, who are these people? Like, this is weird. So that was some of my first memories, was being surrounded by very dark-skinned people and just feeling like this is who I belong with. So from there, my dad and mom, my dad was a pastor in a place, Kansas City, Missouri, and then after that, Denver, Colorado. And that's where I went to college, and I met my wife, and then had several different jobs, and then finally ended up here in Oklahoma City in 2013.
What did you study?
In college?
Mm-hmm.
I studied biblical studies and religion. And so I got to look at religions from all over the world and just look at them and the similarities and how they are similar and then also where they differ. And then studied the Bible. And one of the main questions that I had, and I know many people have, is the Bible the Word of God? And so that was one of the main questions and main reasons that I was studying for that degree.
Okay. So who introduced you to the God? Like, what is God for you?
Yes. So yes, my parents were my primary introduction to God. So as missionaries, they were communicating to others about God. So I was baptized at a very young age, so young I don't remember it. And then when I was about 20 years old in college, I had to go through my own thing. And I remember it was right before I went to college, and I was part of a harvesting crew in Midland, Kansas. And I was with a bunch of guys, and they were out every weekend chasing girls and drinking and partying and just generally having fun. It looked like fun to me. And I stayed behind in the trailer by myself because I thought that was wrong. And so I remember being alone in the trailer one day and praying to God and saying, God, if you're real, there's got to be a better life than this, where I just miss out on everything that I think that looks like fun. And a couple months after that, I went on a trip up to Montana and got to be with many other believers in Christ. And we just had the greatest time. And I began to experience God in a real way there. So that was my time in my life that I first began to realize, okay, God is real, and this isn't just what my parents taught me. It's not just a religion that I adhere to because of how I was born. About 20 years old.
Usually, like even in my case, faith comes from our parents. like they introduce you to God and they take you close to the God, but there has to be, in my opinion, there has to be a certain moment in life where you feel like, okay, now I accept the faith. So was that moment in Montana for you?
It was, yes.
Okay.
And I had, in Christianity, we say this prayer like, Jesus, come into my heart, I want to know you. And I had done that at a young age. And there was some level of relationship that I had with God and Jesus, but they didn't become real until I was, I think I was about 18 when I reestablished that relationship with God, and it took a couple years to work out. It wasn't just snap of the fingers and there it was. It took me a while to figure it out.
Was there any moment in your life where you doubt the faith in God?
Yes, absolutely. A couple times in college, because I had my professors in college who were teaching me that God isn't real and the Bible is not the Word of God, and you can't know anything, and I don't think it's changed too much since I went to college many years ago. So I had to wrestle through that, and I had to look at the arguments against God and against the Bible, and I had to deal with it in my own way. So epistemology is the study of knowledge. And so I had to go through that and say, well, how does someone else know something? How do I know something? What amount of evidence do I need to know something or to believe in something? So so kind of working my way backwards, reducing my layers of belief down to a core level of what do I believe and why do I believe it? And so from there, it was a combination of my personal experience with God as well as the information that I had studied. And I don't think it can be proven that God exists, and I don't think you can even prove that the Bible is the Word of God. There's more evidence that God exists and more evidence that the Bible is the Word of God than not. So that's where I ended up, and that's the foundation I built my faith upon.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what is Anchor?
Okay.
And how did you guys come up with the concept of Anchor? And like how did you guys start this whole thing? And when did you figure out that communication is your strength and helping student is something you want to do?
Yeah. Thank you. So my story as it goes through, my time of being just a single college student and then finding my wife and then graduating and I actually left school my junior year of college because I didn't agree with what my professors were teaching me. And they were basically teaching me that the Bible is just another book. And so by that time I'd pretty much decided that I didn't believe that. And I had the evidence for why I didn't believe that, so I left school. So
that's a bold move.
Right. It was. And looking back, I kind of wish I just would have finished my degree and said, fine, we disagree, and gotten the degree anyway. But anyway, that's what I did. Got married, had several kids right away, bounced through several different jobs, and then ended up as working in the oil and gas industry in Denver in the early 2000s, and started making a lot of money and just really enjoyed it. So from there, I thought, I'm just going to be somebody who makes money, and I'll give some money to good causes, and that'll be my story. Well, that God wasn't going to be okay with that. So he moved me out of that job, through a couple other jobs, and then at the age of 41, I started with Anchor. And so some of the other jobs I had, I was in sales for a while. I was in oil and gas. I was in safety. I was a house parent for years. Worked some retail stuff as well. Worked construction. So just kind of did a bunch of different things. But now this job in Anchor has been the most enjoyable job that I've ever had in my life. And it's something that it's like, oh, okay. So as I understand it now, God moved me into a job that I enjoy more than anything else. And so I get to meet students, and I get to be connected to people's lives, and I try and be there at a time where they need some friendship, they need some connection. I pray for them. I try and help in not big ways, but little ways, relational, good advice when needed, picking up some furniture or something if that's what's needed. So with that, there's a friendship level that I'm trying to establish without doing things for them, because if someone just hands you money all the time, you're not growing, right? So being there, being aware of what they actually need, and being present in the best ways. But Anchor is the idea is I'm trying to help students find their faith in God and find that relationship with God, so that their life, like I described it, my faith is built on this foundation, so that people have their anchor that they've connected, so that their life is attached to something, and that keeps them from just drifting all over the place. And they a lot of people just try and go through life just making money and trying to enjoy themselves as much as possible. But that means you just get carried wherever, right? Mm-hmm. So anchor is, how do I anchor my life to something that matters and that's going to make a difference for good, for the kingdom of God in this world, especially for others.
That's amazing. And I'm somebody who received his help, actually. So Derek picked me up from the airport when I got here in Oklahoma. So he's actually, as I mentioned, he's my first friend. And I still remember that day. He picked me up from the airport, and then he randomly asked me if I know what Chick-fil-A is. I still remember. And then I was
Welcome
like,
to Oklahoma.
I was like, I'm guessing it's something with chicken.
You're right.
And so he took me to Chick-fil-A. He bought me a meal, and to the day I still remember when I walked into my apartment. He gave me a pillow, a bed sheet, a pillow cover, and
I forgot about that.
And including toothbrush, toothpaste, and there was a basket. So everything was in that basket, and I still remember that. It was late. It was 6:30 p.m. when we got to my apartment, and so he took me to Walmart, but then he realized he has to go somewhere. So he told me that, okay, can we come back again tomorrow? So he dropped me back to my apartment. He came back next day. You picked me up. Then we went back to Walmart, and then we finished our shopping. And not just those 2 days, even after that, pretty much we were in touch almost those 2 years of my studies. He helped me n number of times for the first few months. He took me to Walmart almost every week. Then one time I had to buy some furniture, so we used his truck. And so I have seen him helping people, and I have seen him helping me. And for me, it almost felt like somebody was there for me when I lost my dad, and which is why we came so close together. And another thing, I used to go and read Bible lessons with him and a bunch of people. And even though I'm Hindu, I feel like in those 2 years, he kept me close to God, and which is why he's so special to me. There were n number of situations where I was lonely, but every time I needed somebody, he was there for me. And I'm grateful for that. If you think I'm successful today, it's the Lord has to go for you, and you have a big share in it. So I appreciate and thank you so much.
That's very kind. Thank you. I forgot some of that story, so thank you, and I'm happy I could do that. And let me just say, Nitin is one of the hardest workers I know. This guy, that's very kind of him to say that I was part of his success, but if that's true, I was a very small part of his success, because you worked hard. You were not going to let anything distract you. I mean, you were putting in the work. You were studying. You were as focused as I've ever seen a student be focused. So I'm just going to say, most of it was you. Maybe I helped a little bit, but no, you did a great job.
If I would expect some kind of help from my dad, you gave me that
Thank
help,
you.
and which is why it means the world to me. And and probably which is why, like, I had so many things online when I came here, and there was no way going back for me. So I had to do everything I did, and I had to put in all the hard work, and people like you help me stay focused towards my goal. So thank you so much for that. So who believed in you before you started believing in yourself?
Okay. Yeah, I did. My dad was just a great dad, and he's still alive today. And so he has encouraged me and pushed me forward towards just being who I am and being a minister. He was a minister. He still is. So he's coming into about 53 years of just being a minister and loving and caring for others. So
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's my first answer to that. There have been a couple other guys in my life. One of the things that we do as Anchor is we try and build discipleship relationships. So a discipler relationship is someone who's helping someone else grow, especially spiritually. And so as I help other young men grow, I have older men who help me grow. And so there are a couple of guys, I'll just say their names, John Bingaman and Mike McGregor, who have really spoken into my life. And they've consistently pulled the best out of me. And when I got discouraged or when I was down, I felt like I wasn't doing it right. I felt like I wasn't making a difference. They lifted me up. They're pulling me back into the best version of myself. So those are two guys that really invested in my life and have helped me stay on the road that I'm supposed to be on.
What do you think is the biggest challenge for student of this generation? Because you talk to a lot of them every day. So what is the common problem you've been noticing with most of the students?
Yeah. So there's a word going around, that we've heard for a couple of years. It's fake news. And so as I talk to students at UCO, what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of students who say, we can't trust this source, we can't trust those people, maybe this political party or that organization. And so a lot of students are in this place of they only are taking information from certain places and they don't know if that's true or not. Mm-hmm. And so in my language, they're becoming unmoored. They're like, I don't know what to do and I don't know what to pursue and how to do it. And so that's part of the reason why we call ourselves Anchor, is we want to tie into a giant truth, this relationship with God through Jesus Christ that's available to give our lives meaning. And I think most students are now at the point where it's just, I'm just going to go make money and I'm just going to live my life, for myself the best that I can. And they're not tied to a greater calling or a greater purpose in their life. Especially because our culture is speaking so many different opposing viewpoints and people don't know who to believe or what to believe.
Do you think the information on social media is really impacting this generation? Because I think there's so much information right now that nobody knows what's authentic. And
yes,
with the AI and everything, you can literally change faces, you can change voices, you can change pretty much anything and everything. So I think that's another. I personally try to keep myself away from social media because I don't know what's true.
Yeah, right.
So I believe in either reading information or just staying away from it, because most of the information that is available on internet is useless.
I agree.
And which is why this whole idea of talking to people came into my mind.
Okay.
Because I feel like I talk to so many people around me and who have a great stories. And I feel like world needs to know this. So I hope, some kids listen to my podcast and it will make an impact.
Yeah.
He will probably learn from your experiences, and I'm just a source of it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. I love it.
How do you help someone question their beliefs? Because every person you talk to, they have their own beliefs. Mm-hmm. And when you're trying to talk to them, you're basically trying to change their beliefs, whatever the existing beliefs they have, and you're trying to help them to listen to you. So how do you change that?
Yeah. So my general worldview is that we can all do better with our belief systems. That we basically have what we have in our life because of our belief systems. Mm-hmm. And so what we want to do is we want to keep growing in our belief systems towards belief systems that are more kind, compassionate, that are reaching out towards others, that are helping to create a better world around us, that allow for selflessness and supporting others, and that are good for me as well as you. And there's so much in belief systems where it's that, if there's two pieces, if I take both of them, then I'll be happier. I'm sorry for you. And in my opinion, the biblical belief system is that we have a God of unlimited ability, a God of unlimited power and resources. And so if we can honor each other and love each other as God has designed us to, then those pieces start to multiply. Mm-hmm. Like the parable of where Jesus reached up to heaven and prayed, and then there was food for the 5,000. It's not just 12 loaves and 6 fish. There's more that's available, but we got to start treating each other the right way and responding to each other the right way. It's not just, hey man, there's 2 and I'm taking both. It's okay. Well, let's share this, and then more come. So, okay. So all of that to say, the place of trusting, and that's part of the reason why with young adults, I'm trying to point them towards the Bible. It's not that I'm trying to change their belief system. I believe I'm leading them to a greater, like a belief system of higher potential of what can be in this world. And the Bible is the roadmap to those relationships of how we do that, how we show each other love and generosity and compassion. So, yes, I see what you're saying about change of belief systems. I can see how someone would define it that way, but I would say there's more, and we want to move into the more, not just, well, you're wrong, be right like me. I believe there's better for me and for you, and we all move into the better. That's how I would put it.
Yeah, I think everybody is good in their own ways. What we can do is help them get better.
Yes.
So yeah, I agree with you.
Yep.
And so for you, what is the difference between somebody who is truly discipled and somebody who is more religious?
Yeah. Wow, that's a great question. I know most people don't quite get to that. They're just like, oh, it's just the Bible. Mm-hmm. But wow, great question. Okay.
Thank you. I'm proud of myself.
Yeah. You should be. Someone who is discipled is, in my opinion, they're allowing themselves to be led by another person, and they're trusting that God is speaking through that other person into their life. So I have someone who's discipling me right now, that guy I was talking about earlier, Mike. And so I have looked at his life, and I have asked him questions, and I've seen what he believes, and I see his life with his family and his kids and how he treats other people and all of it, and I say, okay, I believe that God is operating in his life, and I can see the evidence of that, and so therefore I am listening to him. When he tells me something, that doesn't mean that if he tells me to go sell my house and give him the money, I'm going to do it. Probably not. He doesn't tell me that. But I'm paying attention to what he tells me, because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and I'm going to talk to others, especially young men, and I'm be like, hey, this is how we want to treat our wives or our girlfriend. This is how we want to work hard in school, because there is a progression to this. We want to be connected to people and help them as much as we can. And real discipleship is following someone else who's following Jesus. And as I follow that person, I'm not looking to them as perfection. I'm looking to them as someone who is doing their best to model Jesus in this world. And I am wanting to get to that place too, of where I'm doing my best to model Jesus in this world, because I believe that Jesus is our perfect example in how we live in love and in sacrifice and in humility. And it's not about how much can I amass for myself from others, but it's how can we have the full life with everyone.
That's amazing. So when you talk to all these kids, have you ever realized that there was an issue with their parenting? So I'm asking this question because I want to help parents to know what they should know about their kids. Um, when they're growing up, like what are the things they should consider while nurturing them as a kid, to have a good relation with them, to keep them close to God, and
Yeah. Okay. So I had a young man tell me the other day. He said, my dad never criticized my mom's food. He just always said thank you. And he said, I think that's a problem, because I saw someone else, his girlfriend, and he saw his girlfriend's dad criticize his girlfriend's mom's food, and mom stopped making good food. It was just, she would just serve just kind of terrible food. And he said, I think my dad made a mistake, and my dad should have criticized my mom's food more, so that I knew how detrimental to a relationship criticism is. And I looked at him, I'm like, wait a second. You're saying that your dad should have been worse because that would have taught you a better lesson. And he's like, yes, that's correct. And I thought, I don't agree with that. Like his dad was always complimentary to his mom, no matter how whether it was good food or bad food, right? He was always honoring and respectful to his mom. So I would say to parents, your children will find fault with you no matter what. Like parents aren't perfect, and parents, like your children, will just find something. Even if, husband, you are honoring and respectful to your wife all the time, and you did a great job with that, your kids might still think, hey, you should have been meaner to mom. I don't think, so there's just going to be, our kids are going to find fault with us. They just are. And that's the place where we give them grace and we give them mercy, and we say, yes, in my belief system, I believe Jesus came to save us from our sins. So I make mistakes, and when my kids come to me and say, hey, Dad, I think you did this wrong or that wrong, I'll think it through, and a lot of times I'm like, I think you're right. I probably didn't do that as well as I could have, or as well as I should have. And so we apologize, but I'm not living in the place of shame or guilt that, because I'm not trying to hurt my kids. I'm not, I did the best job I could, just like whoever, the parents that are watching this, you tried, and I'm trying, and we just walk in that place. As far as young people, we want to give our parents grace. My dad came from an older generation that was a little bit more harsh and a little bit more strict, disciplinarian. And I look at that, and there's ways I think they should have done better. But as a Christ follower, I walk in forgiveness, and I just say, hey, he tried, he was doing his best. And so especially if both the parents and the kids can be in that place of forgiveness, and we're trying, and I'm looking towards the best relationship, and I'm seeing the best in them. I'm not picking out their faults, because if you're looking for it, you'll find it. But instead, I look for the good that they did.
And also, I think there is an upgrade, even you as a parent, because they feel comfortable enough to come to you and talk to you about something they don't like about it. I'm sure as a kid, you could not do that to your dad.
Yeah, you're right.
So you're definitely trying your best. And I think, so in my culture, we say after 18 years of, like once you turn 18, you don't treat your father as a father, you treat him like a friend.
Okay.
And it does not happen in all the families, but I was lucky enough that it happened to me, because then I was able to go to my dad, and I never pinpointed his mistakes because I never saw him doing mistakes, but I definitely talked to him a lot about business and gave him advices, and him being more experienced than me, he always listened to it. And one thing I really loved about him was he was taking advices from me and he was actually implementing them. and he would ask me to go and find information about something that he don't have. And then once I come back with the information, he would trust that information because he knew that he can rely on me for that information. So I think that's your kids feeling comfortable enough to come to you and criticize your opinions or your actions is I think is a great parenting. So
that openness and that trust in that relationship, that I'm not here to pull you down or put you down, but instead I'm just being honest.
Okay, what lies do you most often watch students believe about themselves?
Okay, so one is that what they do doesn't really matter, what they do right now. So there's very much there's a phrase, it's a little bit older now, but it was about maybe 15 years ago. I heard the phrase YOLO a lot. You only live once.
You only live once.
And it's go out and experience everything you can. I had a friend tell me, this was a while ago, he said, you got to try everything once. And I said, I don't think so. I think there's some things you don't want to try once.
Yes.
It's like,
yes.
I know that cocaine's bad for me. I don't need to try it. I've never tried it. I'm not going to try it. There's this, the lie of experience and the importance of experience, that you just got to go out and do it and live it and see. I think there's some people that if they tried cocaine once, they'd be an addict for the rest of their life. I think there's some things where we just look at it and we think about it carefully, and we don't need to believe the lie of our culture that you got to do it, or to have fun you need to, whatever it is. And for me personally, how that has played out is I am now enjoying my life, and I disciple college students, and I go and I help people that I feel like I'm supposed to be helping, and I lead a small nonprofit, and I have my wife and I have my kids, and I work out every once in a while and play sports, and I have my friends. My best times in life it's not the vacation, it's not the trip, it's not the substance. Like I don't have much of those in my life. Like I have my family, and I have my communities that I enjoy, and I have my purpose and mission in life, and I'm now living a very full life that at 18 or 20 years old, I'm not sure I would have believed that. And so one of the lies, I think, is that where you're at, you can't be happy where you're at. You got to have more. You need to have more experience. You got to have more trips, substance, whatever it is. So I think that's one of the major lies that young adults are dealing with.
Even with YOLO, you should know what you want to try.
Yeah.
And so I believe in YOLO.
Okay.
But I do know what I want to try and what I don't want to try.
Yeah.
So there are things in life that I do because I just want to live in today, and I don't want to, I do understand that I need to save certain amount of money and then have a certain amount of bank balance, all of that. But at the same time, I don't know when is going to be my last day. So I definitely, if I feel like I want to do something, and if it stays in my mind for a few days, I will do it. And similarly, like this podcast channel, it stayed in my mind for a few days, and I started with it. So things like that. And I have seen some of my friends trying alcohol for the first time, and they asked me if I want to try it, and I said no. But they said, oh, we're just going to try it once. And now I see them drinking, pretty often, and I feel bad that I should have stopped them back then. So, that would have never happened. But then this is the decision they took for themselves, and I hope they're happy with it.
So, you starting this podcast channel, yes, absolutely. I mean, and if I get to speak to young adults very quickly, finding something that I believe that God's given us all a purpose, but that purpose is also connected to other people. We're not just supposed to live a life of, the 5-star vacation for the rest of my life where people just serve me and come to my hotel room, and I separate myself from people and just live this life of like a king or an emperor. Like I don't think that's like our God calling is in connection and it's helping other people. So this podcast is going to help people. It's gonna people are going to understand and make better decisions, or their minds are going to be opened up because of ideas that are shared. So that's what I would encourage young adults towards, is there's going to be something in your life that makes you feel good because you're connecting with other people and you're helping move them in a better direction. And so that's the absolutely YOLO, go for it.
Yeah, and one of the thing that made me decide on starting this, so I've been thinking about this for a year, and what I was noticing was after my work, after my gym, I have enough free time to utilize. And I was always, my dad always used to tell me that, if you have an empty mind, that's, you're gonna invite yourself a trouble, because then you're gonna try to use it somewhere that you're not supposed to use it. I wish I could reframe this better, but that's the summary of it. And so I was like, okay, I do have a free time. I do have, enough energy to do things, and I do want to help people. So what can I do? And then I was like, okay, this is the theme that I want to come out with, where I like to talk to people. And I think some of the people around me world needs to hear their stories because they're inspiring, and which is why I came up with this idea. Let's talk about Anchor. So when I was reading about Anchor on the website, it said they started only with University of Central Oklahoma, and during COVID, they went to 7 different universities in Oklahoma now. So what COVID changed? What pushed you guys got during the COVID that expanded it?
Yes. So during COVID, we were one of the places that we'd tell people, you can still come and gather with us. We do outside stuff, some inside stuff. Just tell them wear a mask, because there were a lot of places that weren't allowing gatherings of more than 3. So students wanted to hang out. They wanted to, not be in their bedroom all the time. So that was probably one of the main reasons that we grew so much during COVID.
So one of the things I noticed with Anchor is you guys do have a lot of international students. So how do you guys come across to all these international students, and what is your goal when you help international students?
Yeah, we will sign up for the airport pickups. So international students are coming in at all hours at the week before school starts, and the school asked us for help. Will you help pick up students? And so sometimes a flight gets delayed or canceled, and so sometimes, like, I can't remember if it was you or someone else, but the flight was supposed to come in at 3 p.m, and it came in the next day or something in the evening, and so some of it is we just want to be helpful and available because people need this, and it's better to be picked up by someone who's caring and wanting to care, as opposed to trying to be put on public transportation or just pay a fortune for an Uber your first day here. So that's certainly part of it. Some of it is that we want to be welcoming. America is the nation that was founded by immigrants and is grown by immigration. And so that's part of our DNA as Americans, at least most of us. And so we want to continue that. We want to be a welcoming, kind people. My grandparents were immigrants from Holland. So from Europe, obviously, if you couldn't tell. But immigration, all of us are immigrants at some point, just usually not very far in our history. And then finally, there is the element of where we believe that this relationship with God through Jesus Christ is the greatest thing that we can have in our life. And so we can live a life of peace, a life of prosperity, and a life of purpose once we have this relationship with Christ. And so we want to be a people that are faithful about offering that and sharing that well with others also.
That's amazing. I just remembered one story. So I was the one who missed my flight.
That was
It
you.
was, yeah, it was not actually I missed my flight. So I flew from Mumbai to Heathrow Airport.
Okay.
And then when I got to Heathrow Airport, I realized they had some technical issue. And so all of their flights from there was canceled.
Oh, wow.
And so I had to stay at Heathrow Airport for a day. They were nice enough to give me a hotel and everything. And I think which is why we met, because I flew next day
Okay.
to Oklahoma City, and there was somebody else that was supposed to pick me up, but he was not available that day.
Okay.
So they asked you,
So that was me.
and then which is why you picked me up.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember, I misplaced both of my bags. Do you remember that
I don't remember
story?
that now.
Yeah. So when I came to Oklahoma for my first time, I was with just my backpack, and lucky enough, so I have a history with losing my bags. And so I always know I'm going to lose at least one of my bags. So I carry everything extra in my carry-on bag. So I had like a couple of pairs of my clothes and everything with me. So I was able to survive that one more day. And then next day we went to Walmart and bought everything. And then after 2 days, my bags came in.
And then, yeah, there we go.
So it's crazy. Yeah. So what is the hardest part of your job that people don't see it from outside?
Yeah. I do. I care about the lives of those that I'm touching their life. And sometimes it's deciding who I'm supposed to be invested in right now. And so there's enough young men in my life that I'm like, okay, who am I really engaged with right now? So that's tough because I only have a limited amount of time, and I really prioritize my wife, and so my wife gets a good chunk of my time every week, and then I also work out a couple times a week because you need to stay healthy. Even if you're doing good things, you still need to stay healthy. So I would say life balance is tricky. And then the other part of it is when I see people and I'm pretty sure they're not supposed to be doing something. So I had a young man the other day that his girlfriend was coming back from somewhere, and I told him, don't let her move in. Don't let her move in yet. Like he wanted to get married to her, and in the Christian worldview, we strongly believe in you don't live together until you're married. You once you get married, that's when marriage is a covenant between God and others and the married couple, and we wait to sleep together and to live together until we're married. And then once we commit, we're committed for forever. This is life. And obviously some Christians still get divorced, but God's plan is to stay married. So I told him, don't let her move in. Not yet, just wait. And he did let her move in, and they had a lot of problems right off the bat. And so I could look at them and see, I don't think they're ready yet. But it wasn't about me telling him you're not ready, because that's subjective. That's my opinion, that's his opinion. It was about me saying, hey, you need to do what God says here and do God's pattern. Because if we do God's pattern, then it's like, okay, I'm following it through, and there's much more chance of success and blessing. That's how I see it. So there are times where I feel like I tell somebody, hey, this is not going to be good if you do this or pursue this or whatever it is. And sometimes they still do it. And then I hurt for them. And sometimes they'll continue to meet with me, and sometimes they won't. And so I had a guy not too long ago that he went back to drugs, and he just said, this life is too painful and I need drugs to deal with it, basically. And he still hasn't, every once in a while I send him a text. He still hasn't reached back out to me. So that feels terrible.
Yeah, but I feel like sometimes in order to understand this is wrong, you have to do it. And so my dad used to do this with me. He wanted me to learn from my mistakes. So he would watch me make a mistake. He would supervise me. So like if he knows that I'm doing something wrong, he would watch it so it won't affect everybody else. But then he would make sure that I do that mistake just to know that why I'm not supposed to do it. And he always told me one thing, that until you're with me, you're allowed to make mistake, and which is why I want you to make mistakes so you know what's out there and what is wrong.
That's pretty good.
And I love that about him, because I think that shaped me really good, because then I like, even before I got here, I have done enough mistakes that now I know the difference of good and bad. So I think sometimes you just have to let them make mistakes and, you know, figure out life by themselves. And then when they really need help, they come back to you.
So, some of them I'm hoping they do. I'm still waiting. Like, come on back. So, but yeah.
But so how do you measure the success of Anchor? Like, how do you figure out, okay, this particular person don't need my help anymore, and this is the right time I move away from him, or, you know, how do you measure that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So Anchor, we are a ministry focused on young adults, college students, and some post-college students. That's something I appreciated about you, is that even though you were in college, you were a little bit older, and I appreciated that maturity, because there's some guys that are more immature, and so I appreciated that from you.
Thank you.
I don't have a spreadsheet, you know, that says they've checked these 6 marks, and so I'm like, success, you've graduated, you know, moving on. It is, some of it's just, I sense need, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be there for this person during this season. Some of it's how much they are in the place of, they're like, okay, like I can sense that they're listening and they're paying attention and they're implementing some of the things that I'm talking to them about. If someone wants to meet with me and you know, never does any of my recommendations, it's probably going to be a situation where I'm like, well, okay, you're going your own way. There's someone else who needs me. And then there also there comes a point too where when others, because I disciple others so that they will disciple others, you know, and so there comes a point too where it's okay, you're really starting to get this, you know, you're starting to walk like Jesus, and you're learning how to share about this with others, and so sometimes guys will find someone else to disciple them or to lead them. And that's happened to me before, where someone comes to me and is like, hey, there's another guy who I really want to develop a relationship with, and I'm okay with that. You know, we don't define discipleship as a rest of your life thing. Jesus discipled his 12 disciples for 3 years, and then they were done. So how is it determined when the discipleship relationship is over? I don't fully know. It just kind of happens, and it's like, okay, this is the end of this season, and you know, hopefully everybody walks away grateful and friends, and sometimes, like I said, you know, someone's going back to drugs, or they've chosen a different lifestyle, or you know, they don't want anything to do with the church or God. That's pretty rare, but it does happen. But a lot of times too, it's just, like when we didn't meet as much when you got your job and you had like everything. And I remember like we would meet and we'd pray, we're like, God,
every time,
help Nitin get the right job, you know, and someone who's going to sponsor him and the whole thing. And then it all happened, and like you're like, okay, you know, and so it was I don't know, some of it's season of life stuff too. So it's all over the place.
And one thing I really love about you is, I did Bible reading with you. I went to church with you. We did a lot of fun things together. And so whenever we used to read the Bible together, and when we used to discuss, I remember bringing a lot about my culture, like things from my culture, and giving example about that. But nobody ever looked, like uncomfortable with it.
Okay, good.
They like everybody was like, "Oh, that's super cool!" Like
Yeah.
So I loved that, and I felt like like I was meeting my friends every Saturday morning. So it almost felt like a family, and I feel like in that zone of my life, I needed that because it just gave me a change in a different way of thinking, gave me a maturity of like, and if I stayed on track during those 2 years, and if I was able to stay focused with my job, hunt, and everything, it was because I had people like you around me. If that makes sense. So, like, how do you guys raise donations? And if so, I'm asking this because if somebody wants to donate, how can they donate?
Well, that's a great question, and I will answer that question. We are all we raise our own support is what we call it. So we talk to people, friends and family, and others who, and we say, would you be willing to invest in me so that I can go invest in others? Because college students can't pay for their relationship with me. Like that's just not. They don't have that. They don't have that ability. So that's. So people will give me, amounts of money monthly, and they'll say, okay, Derek, we believe in what you're doing. We believe in this mission that you have in your life to live life with young adults and to move them towards a God-centered life. That's best for everybody. And so, yeah, we just, if someone is watching this and you really want to support me, this is our website, anchorok.org. And there's a donate button, and that's that. So it's pretty simple, and there's been enough that we can do this. I'm not getting rich, but that's all right. I got a truck. I can help with truck stuff when necessary, and go out to eat every once in a while with somebody, and get coffee or whatever it is. And there's enough to just build relationship and build friendship.
I'm gonna add the link in the description, so if somebody wants to donate, they can go in and donate.
Thank you. That was very generous.
Can you share one story of a student? You don't have to take a name, but that really touched you and you were really glad to help him.
Yeah. Yes. Young man who had a tough relationship with his father. Father was very demanding and not very relational, didn't really encourage him or support him. There's one of a diagram for a good leader is someone who's high challenge and high support. So we want to support people really well and give them encouragement and love and what do you need, but we also want to challenge them. We don't want to just let them just sit, right? Well, his dad was all challenge and no support. And so that place is nothing's ever good enough. You got to try harder. You weren't trying hard enough. And so he came from a pretty tough situation. And I met him in a coffee shop here in town. And I felt I was meeting another guy in the coffee shop. And he knew this other young man. They said hi. Me and the guy I was meeting went to order food, and then and I felt that God prompt, like just that push in my heart, like go talk to him, go talk to the other kid. So I did, and I just went and asked him. I'm like, hey man, I do discipleship. Do you want to be discipled? Like it was that simple. And he said, yeah. And so we started getting together, and he's talking through some of these father relationships and trying so hard and not feeling loved. And so as we would meet, we would read the stories in the Bible of how much God loves us and the grace and the mercy that God has for us. So God has, there's a verse in the Bible, it says, it's Matthew 5:48, and it says, be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. So God's standard for us is perfection. You talk about high challenge. God's like, hey, my challenge for you is perfection. Okay, can't do it, right? Not impossible. But God gives us all the support we could ever need, right? It's love and it's grace when we fail, right? Even if we do 4 things poorly and 1 thing well, the first thing God says to us is, hey, good job. You did this 1 thing really well, and we'll work on the other things. So so being able to try and be that in his life the best that I could, and seeing him respond, seeing him, like, he actually stepped away from one job that he realized was much more attached to his past around sports and his identity with his dad. He's like, that's the one that my dad really wants me to do, but I don't feel like that's my calling. And he stepped into a different job that's much more him, and it fits him, and he's helping other people. So that's the piece where I'm like, okay, I got to walk alongside someone for a little while, and I didn't tell him which job to drop and which job to pick up. You know, that's on him. But he's starting to understand the voice of God. He's starting to understand his purpose and his meaning, his identity and his calling in his life. And when I see that, and I see guys starting to walk in the peace of that and enjoyment of that, and it's like, that's
your purpose.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Was there ever an incident where you were trying to help a student, and then that student did something that helped you learn something?
Yeah.
So you actually learned from a student?
Yes, I would say a fair amount. The other day, I was meeting with a young man, and I gave him some recommendations regarding, he had having some difficulties at work. I gave him a recommendation, and he said, actually, I'm just going to go call my boss and ask him. And I was kind of giving him, like, you know, some chess moves, you know. And he's like, well, I'm just going to call my boss and talk to him directly. I was like, yeah, actually, I think you're right. That's the best move. So things where there's times I got to stay in that place of humility, of my ideas aren't the best ideas. You know, I'm 20, 30 years older than a lot of the guys that I'm meeting with. And so I have a lot of life experience behind me. And I have, you know, I've had some success in life, you know, marriage, family, etc. But there's often times where they have a solution for a situation, or they have a natural strength in their life that's not my strength. And so I can be talking through something, and they'll pick it up and they'll be like, well, I don't know about that, you know. And it's like, okay, I think you're right. Like that's like one of the strengths that you had is you have this work ethic that, you know, I'm just like, wow. Like, if you're gonna get it done, you're gonna get it done. And even this is professional and well done. And
thank you.
And that's hard for me. Like I struggle with that. And so it's like, okay, this is something that you are talented in a way that I'm not. And so staying in that place of humility, like, just because I'm older and I have more life experience and all of that doesn't mean that I have the better answer for whatever situation it is. I just give my best opinion, my best thought, stay in relationship, stay in humility, and keep going.
That's awesome. So what keeps you going? And I bet, like, every time you interact with students, or you're not in your best mood, like you have your personal life, I bet things go south in all of our lives. So what keeps you going? Like, even when things are not working for you, how do you keep life going?
All right, well, you've had some good questions, but this is the best one.
Thank you.
It was about 5 years ago, right at the end of COVID, that I had a midlife crisis, and my life kind of fell apart. So I lost my job, several series of events, 2 organizations that I was working for shut down. And so I kind of had to kick on to new jobs. I'd been a house parent for a while, and house parents, there's not much money and there's not much future. So I was kind of trying to figure out a new career at age 40. Mm-hmm. And I'd been trying to serve God with my life and do what I felt like God was telling me to do. And I got very depressed and very upset with God. And I bounced through a couple different jobs, was just trying to make it work, and it wasn't working. And I began to fall into depression. And so what I did is I was praying and asking God, and I felt like God said, come and wait. Just come and wait. And so my church has a prayer room. So I went to the prayer room, and every morning, Monday through Friday, sometimes even on Saturdays, I'd go to the prayer room and I'd spend time with God. And after I lost like 2 jobs in a row, I had a lot of time. And it was COVID. And anyway, so I would go to the prayer room, and most of the time I'd be alone. and I started to spend hours just sitting alone with God. And sometimes I'd sing, sometimes I'd pray, I'd read the Bible, sometimes I'd just sit there and just hang out. And in that place, the presence of God began to come on me, where I felt his love and his favor for me. And I realized, I knew I was a son of God, and that he loved me. And it wasn't about what I was producing for him. It wasn't about whether I was successful in life, whether I had earned honor in my companies, or what my wife thought of me. Nothing mattered except what God thought about me. And God loves me, and he's created me a certain way. And even if I don't have success in the eyes of the world, in his eyes, like, I am extraordinary, and I'm wonderful, and I'm made specially. So it took me a long time. In fact, there was a period of 9 months where I was unemployed, and I even felt like God told me, don't go get a job. Because I could get a job. You know, they weren't good jobs, but I could get a job. And I felt like God said, just wait. And so I did, and I waited in the prayer room. And there was times where I'd be spending just time before God. It would be 6, sometimes even 8 hours a day, where I wasn't doing it to, preach a sermon or to write an article or whatever it was. I was just being with God. So that season lasted 9 months. And at the end of that season, in the middle of that season, I applied for Anchor, the job that I'm doing now. And I didn't really qualify for all of the qualifications for the position. And so we were like, okay, I don't think this is it. And so then it went a couple more months. And so at the end of that time, almost every day, I would be in the prayer room and I'd be spending time with God. And when I was there, it was wonderful. Like, I could feel his favor and his love in my life. And I would leave the prayer room and I would be depressed. My stomach changed, where I couldn't eat most foods. I couldn't drink coffee. My life was getting worse and worse by the moment. My wife would ask me, are you going to get a job? What are we going to do? What are we going to do for money? And she was in school at the time, but she wasn't earning money. And I couldn't answer. I didn't know, because all I knew was that I needed to go to the prayer room and not apply for jobs, which is, I don't give this advice to young men, by the way. I'm like, you need to go get a job.
Yes.
But for me in that season, that's what it was. So at the end of that season, I was depressed. I had no honor. I was avoiding my friends because they would ask me, how are you doing? What's new? And my answer was, I'm doing terribly, and there's nothing new every time. And I was trying to avoid my wife, and I was just hiding in the prayer room to spend time with God. And I finally got to the point, and this is at 41 years old, I got to the point, I'm like, God, if you don't have a reason for me to be here on earth, you might as well take me to heaven. Like, why am I here? I'm just using up space and time, and I'm kind of wasting my wife's life. And so then I said, okay, I'm going to fast. I'm going to fast until you answer me. So I started drinking just water, and I was like, okay, God, like, I need an answer. Like, I don't know what you're doing, but I need an answer. And this was 9 months of just waiting. And I have never experienced joy and happiness like I would experience in that prayer room. Not all the time, not every second, but sometimes, even though my whole life was a disaster. And then I would step outside of that and I would be miserable and just awful. Like I said, couldn't even eat. And so in that, after 12 days of just water, somebody walked into the prayer room and they said, bro, it's Anchor. And I knew, like, I'm like, okay. So I got up off the floor and I took out my phone and I called the chairman of the board of Anchor. And he's like, yeah, I think it is you, which is not how we ended the last conversation, several months ago. And so I was hired within a week, and, it's off and running after that. So here's what I'm saying. Like, your question is what is it that's fueling you? Why are you doing this? So to this day, I still go to the prayer room early every morning, and pretty early. And I spend hours every day before God, because he is the best thing. There's nothing better than God. And it doesn't matter how much money I make and how successful I am or how big Anchor gets, or like, none of that matters at the end of the day except my relationship with God. Because when I can stand before him as his son and I receive his love and his favor on my life, and he looks at me, he's like, hey, well done. Like, good job with those guys. Like, it's not perfect, but you're doing the work that I created you to do, right? That's the place that I walk out of that room almost every morning full of God and His favor and His love on my life, and then I go and I just kind of empty it out throughout the day to others the best that I can, you know. And then I come home kind of tired, and you know, like it's work and the whole thing, and you just, okay, I'm going to sleep, and then next morning I go to the prayer room, and again I'm filled up with God, and then I go, and it's not perfect, it doesn't always happen, but basically that is what happens in my life.
I think, you know, they say that God gives challenges to the best kids.
Yeah.
And I believe in that.
Yeah.
I have experienced that a lot. And some of the best people I've seen, they are best because they've gone through the challenges.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. Absolutely.
And now I see why you're one of the most humble and kindest people I've seen. Is because you have been through a lot, and that makes you feel like, okay, I don't want anybody else to go through this, and so I'm gonna help.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give them that help that they need.
Yeah.
So that makes you different, I feel. Okay, if you have to talk to an 18-year-old kid
Okay.
right now,
Yeah.
what would you talk to him? Just
Yeah. Okay. I'd say don't believe what you're seeing online. Like, so many young adults are looking to, you know, YouTube and to TikTok. You know, we hear people, an influencer on TikTok saying something like, just that's not the good life is in relationships, and it's in the people who love you. And yeah, they're not perfect, and they don't have as much money as, you know, sometimes we'd like, but that's where the good relationships are. And so I would say go to church, you know, develop a community of faith, have your relationships, and be around people who are talking about God and how we are to live life with God. If your friends are just talking about experiences and substances, it's time to find new friends. Like, that's not who you really want to be with, because that's not long-term happiness. That's not enjoyment. Like, those won't be your friends for very long if it's all about substances and, hey, what can we do right now? Like, good friends are long term, and we're working towards a future where we are growing and actualizing into the person that God has for us.
I love it. So, because you have seen my journey, you have seen me on my day one as a student here, and you're seeing me right now. Are you proud of me? What can I do differently to become a better human? And what would you, recommend me?
Yeah. So when I first met Nitin as he at the airport, and over time we began to share life, and you started sharing more of your story and life in India, Pune, right? Mm-hmm. And so your challenges with your dad and missing your dad and stepping out and starting and looking to start a new life in America while still staying connected to your family. You know, you consistently were talking to your mom all the time. Like, you were honoring her and respecting her even from a distance, and going back when you could, you know, in summers, whatever. And looking at a family in India and staying connected to them, but also trying to build a better life, you know, not just for yourself, but also for family to support and to care for them. So there was, as I would meet with you and got to know your life, you know, I'm also talking with other young men, and out of everybody, you were the hardest worker. Like, there was something inside of you that you were, because I know you'd come to America once before, and you're like, and I don't remember your exact words, but it was something along the lines of, I'm going to do this, because if I don't, I'm not getting another chance. Like, this is it, and I'm doing it. Yes. and I saw that determination, and I saw you like lock in and being like, okay, so that's something that, you know, I can look at, and I'm like, man, like, I am proud of you. Like, you did not let yourself get distracted. You didn't fall into any, you know, substances, the wrong friends. Like, I remember at times you'd tell me, you're like, hey, I talked to this lady or this girl or these friends at school, and I'm summarizing, you're like, I'm not going to be spending much time with them because they're off doing these other things. And if I get into those other things, I'm not going to be able to do, or probably not going to be able to do, or those other things are not going to be helpful towards my goal of getting the job and getting it done here. And so that's the piece that I'd look at you and I'd be like you knew what you wanted and you stayed on it. Like you didn't let yourself get distracted, because there's plenty of distractions on a college campus, and there just are. And and even there's multiple times where I saw you step into a relationship, and like you had a friendship, and you're very good at starting friendships, and also just having that connection with people. But then they'd kind of pull you towards something, but you're good at setting the line and saying, no, this is a friendship, but also I'm not going over here to do more over here. Like I'm your friend and we're connected, but I'm still on my track. And that's a life skill. If we can be friends with others but not let them get us off of the path that we're supposed to be on, that's really important. So that's something that I think you really have to offer to people.
Yeah, I feel like it took me a lot of mistake to learn some things in life, and it took me lose my dad to learn that quality about myself. My life changed after I lost my dad because I saw the world differently, and I knew that there's no one, nobody has my back anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to be careful, and I am responsible for my actions. So I have to make sure that whatever I do is best for myself and best for the people around me. So so that changed me a lot. Thank you so much for being here today. And this conversation is very special to me because he is somebody that I respect a lot, and he's somebody that I'm grateful for, because I don't know, I may have been a different person without him. When I got here, I felt like I met my dad in a different form, and he genuinely took care of me like, how somebody's parents do. So thank you so much for that, and I hope you're proud of me. And I urge everybody to donate for his ministry, because I think I have seen him helping people and it's amazing. I'm one of those. So if you see me as a changed person, it's because of his help. And also there's not a lot I can do, but I'm always happy to talk to students. If you ever need, I'm happy to help in any possible way I can.
Love it.
To your ministry, and and keep up the good work. World need more people like you.
Yeah. Nitin did not ask me to do this, but you need to follow, like, and subscribe. Untold. Like, this is great. Just telling stories, and this is, I don't think I've ever been able to tell my story like this, like, all together. I've told bits and pieces, to people, but this, like, all of it together, from the perspective of someone who I got to engage with and interact with. So yeah, just hit the buttons. This is awesome, and there's gonna be more great content coming. So yes.